Hey there guys, Aldershot here, and today we're gonna do an impression video on Infinity Runner, developed by Wales Interactive and on sale on Steam at the regular price of $10. Alright, so what is Infinity Runner? Well, it's kind of hard to say what genre it is because I'm not really that familiar with it. It's similar to what you'll find in games like Temple Run, which is quite prevalent in the mobile scene. Now, I don't play a lot of mobile games, only a couple here and there. I am somewhat familiar with Temple Run. I haven't played a whole lot of it, but I know what it's about. And Infinity Runner kind of plays like that. Alright, so before we get into the game, let's explore what features this game has to offer. Alright, so you do have the standard story mode, which will take you through chapter to chapter. Then you have your arcade mode, which is kind of interesting. You can play through whatever levels you've already unlocked. And you can play Infinity mode, which basically allows you to run through a level forever until you die, essentially. There's also time attack mode, score attack mode, a distance attack, you know. Just so there's a few ways to play under the arcade mode setting. There is a multiplayer, but I am playing this game and recording this video before it was released. The developer has sent me a copy, a press copy if you will, to take a look at the game. But because it's not released yet, there's no one online, so unfortunately, I don't know too much about the multiplayer aspect, but just taking a look at the lobby, it looks like there is a few different game modes. As you can see, I'm just kind of flipping through it now. And I think you can play upwards to like 2 to 4 players. I'm not completely sure. But regardless, there is a multiplayer mode, and it looks like there is online, which is kind of nice. Alright. Options, your standard options stuff. You know, this channel doesn't really go too far into, you know, your visual options. But you're looking at it now, this is what it has. It's actually fairly robust, not too bad. Alright, so we'll just apply that, and you can play this game under the Oculus Rift, which is kind of interesting. Alright, and let's see, there's also some challenge modes as well, which serves as kind of a second kind of achievement system where if you unlock them, you can upgrade your wolves, and we'll talk a little bit more about that down the road. And there's also leaderboards. So as far as features go, Infinity Runner got it covered in spades, if you ask me, for a $10 game. Yeah, this game has a few features for you to explore, which is actually kind of nice. So let's actually get into the game and see what it's all about. We're going to skip engineering, which is the first level. This is pretty basic. We're going to jump into the brig, which is essentially the second level. We'll explore some more of the game as well, but we'll play through the brig for the time being. Alright. So when you start the game, this is a first-person game, so it's a little bit different from Temple Runner. Or Temple Run, or whatever you want to call it. It does take place in a first-person perspective, which is actually kind of interesting, because you get a pretty good sense of speed.
What the hell happened here? Let's not stick around to find out.
Now, at the beginning of every stage, you do get a little narration from your rebel friend, I guess. She kind of speaks to you telepathically, and I must say, she is actually voiced quite well. The voice acting is pretty good. She has a good voice for what they're trying to do. And strangely enough, you think a very arcadey game like this wouldn't have much of a story to carry you forward, that you would think it would depend on its mechanics to incentivize the player to continue playing. But Infinity Runner actually has a fairly decent story. I mean, it's nothing overly original. You're basically a captive running around in this ship. You've escaped, and this rebel lady is helping you escape. And then, you know, there's some interesting twists and turns as you play through the game. But you wouldn't expect it. But, yeah, Infinity Runner actually has a somewhat interesting story. Much more robust of a story than I originally anticipated, considering the genre of games that this is a part of. So that's kind of cool. That's actually kind of interesting. I like the narrator person, the rebel lady, who kind of guides you through the game. Again, she's very well voice acted, and she's actually a pretty likable character, I must say. Right there you got a little sense of the combat that's in the game. It's actually not really a combat. It's just a quick time event. If you ask me, it's really just another obstacle kind of disguised as combat. But that's okay. This game's obviously not focused in the combat aspect. As you can see, you are just kind of running straight, and you're collecting these, I don't know what you call it, power cards or something. They're just points, essentially. And you're just avoiding obstacles as you kind of move through the level. And this gets a little bit interesting. You can get into parts of the game where you take this kind of weird injection, which turns you into this werewolf thing, this werewolf monster, where you're stronger, more agile, larger. And it does open up a few new puzzle segments when you're in the wolf form as well. So that definitely makes things a little bit interesting. It definitely kind of mixes the game up a little bit. If this game was like Temple Run, if it was just about running forward and avoiding obstacles, the game can get very mundane and boring very, very quickly. And initially, that's kind of how I thought about this game when I first played it. I was like, oh god, what did I get myself into? This is just a Temple Run clone. But strangely enough, I got really addicted to playing this game because they actually throw you into some pretty interesting situations for you to kind of run through. And as I played the game, I kept playing longer and longer just to see what this game can throw at me later on down the road. Kind of like this. Okay, I just died there. So that was a little bit unexpected. When I first saw that part, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, some set piece moments, which is kind of nice. I'm supposed to jump. I don't know why I slide. And just so you know, you do have a slide and a jump, and you do move left and right to avoid things. I think you guys kind of got that from watching the video so far. That's basically your main ways to avoid things. Alright, so I gotta say, the game actually does do, oh god, I should have swung to the left, does do a pretty good job at mixing things up and keeping you on your toes. Obviously this game is on track. There's not a lot of exploration. And it's really about just avoiding things. So this game's mostly focused around the user's reactionary time and your ability to recognize incoming obstacles.
Right, good. You were born a hero.
A little bit of a story bit, I'll let you listen in.
Mysterious beast capable of destroying all in your path, which of course is a very powerful trait indeed. The Terran Council, who own the Infinity and most of the known galaxy, by the way, decided to perform research on those who possess this kind of power and use them for their secret weapons projects. During these tests, to see if your kind could be easily controlled, they established that your all state activated to erratically, which of course made training your people, a nightmare. So they created the item you just picked up. A genetic suppressor which allows your wolf side to come out precisely when you mean it to, instead of at random. With these genetic suppressors, you will be able to transform into a wolf whenever you need to.
So there you go, a little bit of the story bit. You got a good feel for the voice acting and the quality of the voice in this game. As you can see, it is actually pretty well voiced, I must say. And again, I was a little bit surprised by how robust and fleshed out this story is in this game, because it's pretty arcadey. You know, you wouldn't really think that this game would have much of a story, but it actually does try pretty hard and fairly successfully tell a pretty interesting little narrative, which is kind of interesting to see. Now, I mentioned before, you know, you do use your A and D button to kind of avoid things. You can jump and slide, as you can see. It does have controller support as well, but I've been just using the keyboard and has been functioning just fine. So there you go. So as you can see, it does kind of reuse some of the kind of rooms and segments. They don't really mix pre-used segments. Like, for example, I had to duck to the right there last time. I had to duck to the right this time as well. So they do recycle some assets. So you do have to keep that in mind. Now this is kind of cool. You get to kind of just jump and hope for the best. I mean, it really is, you know, pretty simple. It's just a jump mechanic. But they've added that little, you know, cinematic look to it, and that definitely helps add more to the excitement of the game, I want to say. Alright, now you haven't noticed already, the graphics do look a little dated. You know, it kind of looks like a game that came out in the late 90s, you know, like late PS2 era, I want to say. So that's a little bit of an issue. I mean, the truth is, it's not ugly. Okay, it's not ugly for what it is. But at the same time, the graphics do look dated. Now, even though the graphics do look dated, if this game came out around the time that, you know, it actually looks like, it would be considered a good-looking game. So I don't know why they made it with such an old-looking engine. Or old-style looking kind of models and textures, but they did. But what limitations they had, they at least put their best efforts into it, because it does look good for what it is. But at the same time, it does look pretty dated, so do keep that in mind. Alright, now I didn't expect to play this game a whole lot, to be completely honest. I thought, okay, I'll play it for an hour or two just to get a feel for it, and, you know, let the good folks out in the internet land know what the game is all about. But I was strangely addicted to this game. The forward momentum that you feel while playing is actually quite exhilarating, especially when you get a good streak going. Kind of like this, actually. I'm actually doing pretty well in this level, I must say. So that's always fun, and I'm always looking forward to what else this game has to throw at me. I'm gonna see if I can escape this, actually. No, it looks like you can't skip cutscenes, unfortunately. But I'll talk over it anyways. But yeah, I found myself strangely addicted to Infinity Runner. I didn't expect to like this game all that much, to be completely honest. This isn't really the genre that I'm into. I'm not into mobile gaming whatsoever. I thought I was just going to kind of take a look at it and tell you about the mechanics, but I actually am ending up enjoying this game quite a bit, and I'm actually putting in more hours into this game than originally thought. I've so far played about 2 to 3 hours of Infinity Runner, so that's pretty good. We're going to go into the level selector, and we're actually going to choose one of the later levels, so I can show you some pretty cool stuff. Alright, we're gonna run through, let's say the ship exterior. I think that was a pretty cool level to kind of check out. So I think in this level you're gonna kind of get a sense of what I mean by kind of looking forward to what the game's gonna throw at you down the road, because there is some pretty cool set piece moments, I must say. They've done a pretty good job at kind of creating this sort of thrilling, I don't know, roller coaster ride, if you will, because this is very much on tracks. You know, you have absolutely no control over your character's movements whatsoever, besides avoiding things. And if you haven't noticed already, every now and then it will give you an opportunity to choose either left or right. I've kind of experimented with this, and it doesn't really matter which direction you're going down. And I don't know how I failed that. That's weird. But anyways, let's see. Whoops, okay, I definitely pressed the wrong button that time. But as I was saying, it doesn't really matter which path you're going down. They're exactly the same. They'll take you down the exact same road and all that sort of stuff. Now let's see if we can do this damn combat thing a little bit better. Hey, there we go. This time, it's definitely correct. There we go. So again, the combat is, you know, it's just a quick time event. Yeah, don't look at it as combat, look at it as just another obstacle to avoid. That's really the most practical way to look at it. Because otherwise, you know, obviously the combat's pretty lackluster. It's barely combat. It's it's almost a rhythm game because it's a quick time event, essentially. Alright, so we're going to just go down some paths here. We got a couple new dangers we got to avoid, some leaks in the environment. You are running through a spaceship after all, and I do want to mention you are actually naked because you just kind of escaped from your pod. This is a really cool set piece moment here that I thought was really well designed and quite thrilling the first time I played through it. So that's kind of cool. All right, now I can see that Infinity Runner might not be for everybody. Because, you know, the mechanics are pretty simple. Again, it's really just about running forward and avoiding things, and that's basically the game summed up within, like, you know, 2 seconds. And some gamers do look for, you know, more layered mechanics in their games, you know, such as like Diablo or World of Warcraft and all that sort of stuff. And this is not going to be one of those games. This isn't exactly one of those super deep games. This is kind of a just for fun, you know, take a break from your main game kind of game, you know. But there is actually quite a bit of content in this game, as I mentioned. Haven't quite finished it yet. I'm pretty close to the end of the campaign, though, I'm pretty sure. And there is a lot of different modes to kind of explore and check out, including an online multiplayer, which is pretty great to see. To be completely honest, though, I don't expect the online multiplayer to have too much of an audience, especially a few months down the road. It's not a knock against this game, it's just a common pattern that I see in little indie games, at least for the online segments of it. This part is really cool. It kind of reminds me of For the Awesome, where you're just kind of falling down and avoiding things and collecting points. But this was a really cool set-piece moment as well, and yeah, this level's definitely full of them. I'm glad I chose this level to show you guys. But anyways, as I was saying about the multiplayer, I don't expect it to really hold up as far as having a consistent and plentiful community. But again, it's not a knock against this game. This is simply a common trend within little indie games with online multiplayer. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe this game will get really, really popular and it will hold an online audience. Maybe the online is actually really, really fantastic. I don't know. Because again, I'm playing this game before it's released, so there's no one online for me to kind of test that aspect out, unfortunately. But it is nice that they included it. You know, it's always nice to have the option. I'm never against the developer giving us the option, because you know, every now and then, let's say I have a friend who I do want to play with online. Even though there's no one playing pubs, I can at least have the option to play with my friend from, I don't know, let's say the UK or something, right? So that's basically it. Infinity Runner is not a bad game, I must say. I found it strangely addicting. It's quite thrilling. The graphics are a little bit dated, alright, admittedly, and sometimes kind of dark as well. But you know, what it is, for what it is, and even though the graphics are pretty low polygons, it is done pretty well. It's laid out well, so it's not ugly. It's just dated. It's just dated kind of look to it. That's all. But yeah, quite thrilling, quite enjoyable, I must say. $10 is not unreasonable asking price, considering the amount of features that this game does actually have to offer. So there you go, guys. Infinity Runner, not terrible. Yeah, quite enjoyable actually. Strangely addicting and quite thrilling. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found this informative. Hope you you know, found this useful and all that stuff. If you did, you know, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comment. But most importantly, help me grow, feed me my vegetables, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Aldershot out.